I want to bring up this story again because, like, some people on the Diddy side might not listen to this full and vice versa because I don't know all the stuff on that side, so I'm learning a little bit about it. But I'm going to bring this story back up because it's related to the Diddy story where all the kids were up in here and there's a lot of stuff. This conduct, you'll see it here that this person ain't above it. So he wouldn't have a problem of whipping it out in front of kids. So I actually was dragging them during this thing. Tommy Lee told Motley Crue fans in San Francisco to whip it out, whip out their dicks at the Oracle, and some people were upset. Okay, so the thing that's so interesting about this, mostly with like kids and everything, it turned into a pornography show, and okay, here's my stance on this thing. That's good and well. However, if you're going to have minors there, then they can't be, they can't be allowed, okay? So if you're going to be doing things like that, there's literally no age thing there, and they just randomly did it. So their stance is, we ain't for kids. So I was like, okay, great. Then your shows should have a minimum age thing, right? 18 and over, that's it. It was crazy. So imagine this. They're at Diddy's party and there's children there and then they're doing sex acts. Okay? They've been way okay with this. That we should be fine with this. And then I started pulling out that David's, what was it? The statue of David. I go, I'm tired of seeing their Davids, okay? Yeah, it was this whole thing. And then the men started getting all funny with me. And it's like, oh, okay, you can get funny with me. Are you going to tell the feds out when you were having some kids up on you? Okay, so Motley Crue's drummer Tommy Lee says, the world is too soft, just like him. After someone spoke to the local media and threatened to file an indecent exposure complaint after Lee encouraged fans to expose their genitals during the band show last week at Oracle Park. They like to take this stance with me, like, I'm so prude that I'm against, like, guys doing some bullshit like that. Again, everything's about consent, and children should not be present. Like, those type of things. So, it doesn't make any sense that I would be like, oh, no one can ever get nude in front of anybody, and all this bullshit. That's not, they're trying to manipulate us. They're trying to manipulate us and okay them being a bunch of predators. In case you missed it, the notoriously, and also, if Tommy Lee walked into I use this even with the Michael Jackson thing where he keeps going, when he was alive, he kept going like, you're the sick one for thinking that. And it's like, there's so many predators out here, you better be thinking that. And nobody should be doing these things. And so if you walk into a place and you see conduct that you should be worried about, you would do something, right? Or you should do something, or any of these things. But if you normalize the behavior and you do it, you're the one that goes in there and goes, I don't see anything wrong with this. And then all of a sudden, they're like, wow, it's a crime. Oh, we did not partake in any of that. Yeah, okay, so that's these guys. But you already see that they do partake in it. They partake in it right here. They partake in it elsewhere. So in case you missed it, the notoriously well endowed. Why are we even talking about Tommy Lee like that? Tommy Lee decided to show the world. Actually, that comment right there, I'm just saying, is similar to how they were describing Jolly Parton back in the day by a body part. Yeah, I don't know. It was this whole thing, but decided to show the world his goods on Instagram last month. And the full frontal post was allowed to stay up for hours before it came down. Twitter had this double standard where men could just post nude pictures of women, but if women themselves were running a business where they did that, they would go target the women. But they let these rock stars. It was like Rob Zombie or something did that. Yeah, there was something from like way back when. I go, oh, look at this double standard. This thing right here. The not safe for work uncensored version is preserved on Twitter. Yeah, they go and erase all my stuff. This is the thing. I go, oh, that's okay, but yeah. But they went and targeted all women that do it consensually as a business, and then somehow Chami gets to do this in front of kids. I mean, the people that are running it, let me even go in here. So the people that run it like as a business, right? Like they would do something like this, expose them, they're being like Ron Jeremy. No, I shouldn't use him as an example because he's a rapist. Another person. So they do it as a business. Okay, so they're actually following major rules and laws, which these guys don't even follow, which make no sense. It's a weird double standard between celebrities, rock stars, and these bullshit people to the actual world where they run it as a business just for the sake of, right? And so they were trying to take them all down, but yet this. Where's the real human trafficking? Oh, these guys up in here, right? The ones that they allow, right? Okay. I just want people to kind of understand this universe. It's a little strange because even the same things are coming up with these videotapes that they're saying they're shopping around. Yeah, in the comment section, yeah, they're shopping around something. It's like blackmail. I go, yeah, the whole thing's weird because you can't put up certain videos unless people, okay, and sign off for these things in adult productions. So I don't know how they're doing this other thing. It's like that question. And why would you want to put it up? And I was trying to explain to go, like, the photo album that I have, luckily in the photo album, there's nothing in it where somebody doesn't know they're being photographed or they weren't expecting to be photographed. And they're mainly at events and things like that. And it's nothing, and even in those, there's nothing like an expose, like somebody's doing something that they shouldn't be, like something criminal, like nothing like that. And even then, it still feels sketchy. Like, I put a few up, but I'm trying to get the attention of somebody because it might be related to somebody that used to work for entertainment news. Maybe not, maybe some other things. But yeah, they're part of the press and security. And actually, it seems like a lot of different things. Like, they may have started off their career as a model-y type dude. I have no idea. But it's really interesting. But I'm trying to get the attention to let them know I got the thing here and I want to give it to them. And the other thing is I don't want to put it for sale because, well, number one, I don't have the negatives. So if I put it up and I was like trying to sell a couple of pictures off or something, that dude could come up. He's like, yeah, that was stolen. And I have the negatives and they're mine. And it would go into this big old suit. It would be terrible. And so I don't want to do that. But I do want to show them. I do want to show them because some of the pictures are really good and some of them a little sentimental. I don't know. There's just some things in some of the photos. And then some other stuff. But, yeah, but it still feels invasive to the person that it was a part of because there were some other pictures in it where it's like them, like they're doing private stuff. Like, I mean, there's nothing even bad in those. Like they're just on the water on all these boats, on these yachts, and just cruising around. Like, it's just things like that. It's like their private life, right? So, yeah. So to me, like, that's, the line right there. But some of these other things are just like, we're doing it to be vindictive because we're rapists. Like, it's this mentality, right? We're going to get this private thing of people doing something sexual in private, or somebody in the clip did not agree to have these things put out. And, back in the day, it was really, to me, I'm just saying from my point of view, the people that were part of those things were attention. They want a lot of attention. So showing up with Diddy, they want a lot of attention, the media attention. And so it could be very difficult to know what's real and what's not, because even in a lot of these projections, like, they're made to seem like, there's some that are made to seem like they're not part of it, but they are. And so the lines can get very blurry right there, like, you don't know what's going on. And even, and I really want to stress this, even if they consented to do the clip, something can become non-consensual after the fact. And so by that point, right now, they only hold it to what you signed off at the very beginning, but they don't allow you to have an exit in the middle of that event. Because, I mean, I don't know. There's just a whole lot of things to this, you guys. But I don't know how somebody could get a video like that without anybody consenting to it and then shopping around and showing it. I mean, I would never put myself in that position because, well, I don't want to get sued, but also we don't actually know the story behind it. And the story behind it could be extra dark. And then what if it's like major human trafficking? What if it's a child? What if it's these things? And then you're spreading around child porn. I mean, it could happen. And, back in the day, no one really cared about that stuff. And, yeah, there's a lot that can happen there. I don't want the feds coming up and, it's like you do this thing. You're like, well, I really had no idea, but nor did you care. So, I don't know. I can't tell you guys. I don't know what's bullshit and what's not in that portion. I don't know how it's happening. I don't know if it's a thing where they sold it off to like another company and then this other company is trying to sell it. But the way they explained it was they're trying to get a lawyer to see if the lawyer can come to an agreement with the victim in the story or, the person that's in the video to see if they'll sign off on it so then they could legally put it out there. But without that, they're not supposed to do it. So I don't... And I know, and then they're like, isn't it like blackmail? Somebody was trying to do this like legal argument, like no one's trying to hold over their head, blah, blah, blah. But it kind of would be with an attorney coming at you, and they're like saying, hey, we got this video of you. And they're going to say all these things to get you to try to say, okay. I don't know, there's a thing to that. It's a crime, okay? If somebody taped you, and they have to ask you for your permission after the fact, it's a crime. Can we just put it that way on this type of thing here? I know there's going to be other scenarios where that doesn't fit. Like, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe there isn't another scenario where that wouldn't fit. It's that if you didn't agree to do the video at the time of for something adult like that in nature, then therefore it's just criminal. It's criminal because all these cases, if you guys seen them, if you go into someone's house and they're taping you, like say in the bathroom or something like that, it's that. And then what if I was like, well, I did that. So let's see if I could sell it legally and ask the victim if it's okay, because I taped them first. Yeah, I don't know. It's just, is this just me? Anyways, and Motley Crue has been encouraging female fans to flash their boobs at shows for decades. Yeah, that's been going on. I hated that whole thing, just by the way. It's just ridiculous. And then it says, Lee himself said on Twitter on Sunday, on September 1st, ahead of a Seattle show, Lee also tweeted, hey, Seattle, should I whip my Space Needle tonight or the Microsoft? Well, I already showed you motherfuckers mine, so let me see yours. Let's go, boys. Whip your dicks out. Okay, this is a typical Diddy party, right? Lee said during the show, telling people they could see their wang on the Jumbotron 60 feet high. Apparently, many fans complied, male and female. Ladies, don't be scared. You can get that shit out too. Referring to breasts. Okay, a man who didn't apparently have kids of his own at the show, Juan, was nonetheless offended that so many people exposed themselves, and apparently there were kids in the audience, so he was upset about that too. Oh, good for you. You're one of the rare ones up in here. So, minors and everyone was forced to see people nude on the big screen, and everyone was doing it around us too. And so this happened with the roulette, the chat roulette, and somebody was using chat roulette up in here that we used to like. I had to report them to missing and exploited. Yes, because they didn't have an age of consent. They didn't have an age. They didn't have an age thing on here, and these men were doing this, and children were on there. How disgusting are these men? They're a bunch of pedos. They were purposely doing it. Like, they would see kids and they're just like, whip it out. And they finally, yeah, that whole thing went down. I mean, they changed the thing on it. I think they put an 18 on it. And then, yeah, so that was one of the early days of stuff like that. These men just, they're like, what? What? What's the what? We just all have sex in front of kids. We all do that. Like, what? I mean, we invite them, we take them in the back, and my name is P Diddy. And Tommy Lee is his right hand man as well. You see Tommy Lee in a lot of pictures with P Diddy. And do you think they have anything different going on here? No, they don't. They do not. They don't. They just don't, you guys. And they're very attracted to each other. Alvarez apparently said something amidst the other fans that night that he tells ABC7. They thought it was absolutely fine and normal and hilarious and okay. Yeah, that's why the Diddy things keep going on. That's why everything. That's why I said, it's insane to me. I keep bringing up these people with kids stuff, and they're just like, it's totally fine, and I'm going to show you that I'm going to bring my kids around these perpetrators just to give you the middle finger. I'm like, yeah, use your kids to get harmed just to, like, tell me off, you know? Things like that, right? Hey, Disney, you want to go hire some of these guys? Go for it. And they have been, by the way. When I brought up there were children and 6 and 9-year-old girls. Diddy, I'm going to keep saying this because these are the people. 9-year-old girls and kids there, and they said, well, they shouldn't have come to the cruise show. No, that's not the answer to that. No, it's not. Your show needs to have a proper age thing on there. So children should not be exposed to that stuff right there, regardless of what reason, what not. It's not in an educational way. It's not talking about these things, right? So they're doing pornography. They're showing kids pornography, basically. It's not educational. It needs to be educational if you're going to be talking to kids about anything like that. So in response, they're all groomers. In response to Alvarez's televised complaint, Lee took to Twitter. Oh my God, boobs and penises, what are we gonna do? Yo, Juan, I've got a question for you. What do you expect to see at a Motley Crue concert, dude? Yeah, so now it's a thing. That's the thing that they just changed the lyrics to lick it up to whip it out. I know my audio thing got all whacked out, so I gotta pick it up from right here. Alright, the world is too soft. It's been this shit for years, Juan. You know, they aren't PG and never have been. Grow the F up. Okay, so he says this. But kids are there, and they're not supposed to grow the F up to see adult sex acts or anybody doing this type of stuff. Because in any other context, it is predatory and you would get arrested. So I don't know why you have been getting a pass for this and you see nothing wrong with it. Complaining about seeing tits at a... That's not what they... No, they were complaining about seeing all kinds of stuff and men's penises. Complaining about seeing tits at Motley Crue concerts is like complaining about seeing cheesecake at the Cheesecake Factory. No, it isn't, because when I go to the Cheesecake Factory, it's all ages, and I don't expect to see a sex act, you know? I hope not. I ended up getting raped after the Cheesecake Factory, but thank you for bringing that place up. The conduct here has been ongoing. They admit it. So here they just admit, we've been doing this forever. You should expect it. So when we come forward, right, with all these allegations with these men doing things, see the arrogance in here, the narcissism? You ladies need to expect it, okay? Okay? Don't you know who we are? The band with the shitty singer, and oh God, he's his own person, and the best voice, it's his own. I'm like, thank God I mean, actually, I heard Justin Timberlake in 2015, and not that many people even cared about the video on Diddy's channel. And it's pretty bad, too. I was like, oh, man, I can spend all day dragging him, too. That thing, because he's drunk as hell. He couldn't carry a note. Like, it's not his normal, you know, self. He's losing it because he's a hot mess. He's a hot mess. But at least he used to be able to sing, you know. Now it's just funny. I don't know, but yeah, the whole thing, you know. Here's my young boy. Justin! Come up in here. Now I'm going to give you a special surprise after your performance. Anyways, it's sort of sad that this is where we are in San Francisco in 2022. People complaining about public nudity and threatening to call the cops. Well, you shouldn't be doing any of that in front of kids. That's the problem that they're having with. It's not even necessarily the nudity. That guy probably would be You know, whatever with it, but that thing right there, and you know, also other people who are adults are not, they're not down with that stuff. So you have to let the public know before stepping into your garbage freaking arena. There may be nudity, offensive material, blah 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 blah, just like they put on their damn CDs the warning label. Because then it's there, right? Then you do know. Not everybody knows. Not everybody's been to your damn concert. You're old as hell. Many people are born after that time period. They don't know. There's a lot of people that I've been fans of that actually never seen their concert. Actually never been to a Striper concert. Isn't this crazy? I'm like one of their biggest fans from back in the day. Actually never went to one of their shows. Other than Michael Solo. It just happened to be next door, you know. I used to work over at Knott's as a DJ, because I know what it's like to be a DJ. And no one ever came up to me and grabbed me by the crotch to say how great I'm doing. Maybe I wasn't doing that great. That never happened, and that probably would have been the last day on my job. I mean, I wasn't old enough to technically work there, but I wasn't serving drinks. But they did hire me thinking I was 21. Because the lady, I'll kind of say this. So the lady that I worked for at the hospital, at the medical place, basically just kind of, I guess she told them that or something. But they didn't really push to check. Yeah. So, I'm just saying. Nothing bad happened with it, but I'm just saying. But that was a really good paying job. You see why people become a DJ. I'm with Tommy on this one. Wait, okay, so video of Tommy Lee on stage without any without any of the Jumbotron genitalia is below. Okay, so if they can't even show it on YouTube. YouTube's getting more and more ridiculous as we go though too, but the difference is when you're talking about things of educational purposes, like they should know the words that we're talking about and the action, what's bad in this conduct. Like kids should know what's bad in this conduct. It should not be promoted to kids that have this happen to them. So that's basically the stance. They should know that this should not be going on with children so they can actually report predators like these guys. You know, oh, this happened and it shouldn't have happened. And that's why it's taking decades, you know, for some to come forward. Because Tommy Lee's that kid next door that, you know, 20 years later, they're like, you know, I kept going over there and he kept exposing himself to me and all this stuff. And he basically groomed me and into saying that this is totally fine and normal. We've been doing it forever. Okay, so don't be soft, kid. Yeah, this here. What do the comments say? It's hard to see how some could stand it, pun intended. Anyone who did not have an issue with this is a lowlife raised by classless parents. Yeah, these people are such sociopaths, so the only people that are not going to be having an issue are people that do it and have allegations. Nobody seems to care about this. So he wants to see men's manhood because he's asking them to whip it out for him. And Diddy does the same stuff. So them two are like so much alike. You see the friendship. There's a reason why these guys are all friends. They like to sit there like the one guy goes down, right? Like Diddy's going down. Tommy Lee will go over here and go, you know, I didn't need none of that. I had no idea he'd be doing that. Yeah, okay, so he's going to do that. But they have a lot of the same characteristics. They have a lot of things in common. And the things in common are these things right here that really matter. And these are the people that watch the conduct. They have zero problem with the conduct. And then when it comes out, they do this bullshit of, oh, no, we would never do that. You know, thing with like Axl Rose and all that. We all knew that he would be doing that. And everybody's up in here acting shocked. They're acting shocked. I'm sitting there going, what? They literally had a girl on the cover with her panties down. I'm like, she got raped, you know? And they're sitting there singing songs about killing women and stuff. And then they're actually getting chased down for raping people. And then like today, they're just like, oh, no, Axl would do no, so no. And I'm just like, I don't know what crack y'all on. These men have been doing predatory things to also men. This would fall into that category. And there's other male fans who are victims of these guys. So you could become a victim of Tommy Lee, even though you may view him as somebody that targets women. He's not. So that's the thing about this story, because this started bringing in some other conduct from other people that was brought to my attention. It was brought to my attention. And it's weird because it wasn't specifically pointed out. I was getting other information to look at something else, and then it led to this other thing. And then this other thing reminded me of something, and it went down this rabbit hole. And lo and behold, on something I was viewing, there was a fan that was a male that was not expecting someone to do something, and they did it anyways, and the guy was pissed. Like, there's a video on YouTube of this, and I'm like, he just basically violated you, dude. And the guy, it's so weird. Like, he has the look of he wants to fight him. The person doing it is getting off all the way doing this stuff. And, you know, this is kind of where, like, the lines are drawn of your conduct. And they want to make fun of it. And so, you know, eventually people will figure this out, and they are going to go, oh, and like, it'll be at 10 years. We're going to start the clock. In about 10 years, I'll find it and go, outrage, outrage. And that's the end of it. And I was saying for myself, it was either A, I did not see it originally. I don't recall it. And it just went over my head. Or B, when I saw it, I just didn't think nothing of it. And it was just common, and I just said whatever. So either way, this is just bad, okay? So, no, and we're not for it, and no matter what, we have to call it out. It's just going to be that. They've been doing it the whole time. And then they're going to tell you, yeah, hey, we've been perpetrating the whole time. We've been perpetrating the whole time. We never got busted. Why are we going to get busted now? That's that little 5-year-old. I was talking about male insecurity, not that has anything to do with size of anything. He might just feel old and unattractive, and this is the only way he knows how to express it. Part of his mind might feel like this is a good look, and some young ladies might like it. Oh, you mean some young boys? Because wasn't he asking them to pull out their, you know what? For who's watching it, right? And think it's cool. And they might, Sturgis, because this is the kind of stuff they're along with guzzling beer, tire burnout, spit contests, drugs, and other illicit motorcycle culture stuff like flashing bobs. Flashing bobs. Yeah, Tommy's gonna be that 100-year-old. He's gonna be that George Bush in his wheelchair groping all the kids. At this point, a person has to be a complete and utter loser and failure to be a Tommy Lee or Motley Crue fan. Tommy and the band are literally a joke. I've never taken them seriously. Like, it's funny, I was never like I was never really a fan of theirs. It was, most of these bands were bands that friends of mine were big, huge fans. We all had our band, right? One of my friends was a big, huge Motley Crue fan. My other friend was a big GNR fan. I was the Striper freak. And then my other friend was big time into New Kids on the Block. and we learn about each of those bands through each of us because we're all friends, right? So then we just throw them in our face, you know. It's like, I'm going to totally mimic Axl Rose. And then I'm going to totally, you know, I have this whole thing over here. And then they had this whole thing over here. So I could literally name all the New Kids on the Block because my friend had nothing to do because I listened to them. I didn't hate them. It just wasn't my thing. It was always kind of like funny. Like, it's on this level of funny. It's not on hate. Except for GNR, I did not like at all. I was like, at all. It was an annoyance. But also at the same time, you could find something funny about it. And then, yeah, and so Motley Crue's kind of like, eh. But then I met them, and I was saying, I go, well, Mick Mars was actually nice, but he didn't really say much. He kind of was off to the corner sitting because, I guess he has that, disease thing or whatever. And uh, he was nice, and, and then the singer that they had at the time was nice. And then I met Vince Neil on a whole different occasion away from them. And it was past the point of the time where, they did girls, that whole thing. So I didn't even see it. He's a liar because I didn't even see any bullshit like that. And so then when I met Vince and them, they were just really nice. It was nice that they still talked to us because we were too young to get into the club. And he actually took the time out to sign things and say hi. So he does have a nice side. But I'm not going to sit there and say, oh, he's a nice guy. He's just effed in the head. It's like, I can't give you a good breakdown of the guy because, well, number one, I didn't spend time with him. I don't know, like, every part of his history. But I do know there's a lot of bad in his stories. But he could play nice. Like, he didn't have to do that. But he had this assistant with him, and there was probably some security guy. I don't even remember, but I have a picture of him and the other guy. I think it's his little water boy dude. So I wouldn't be out here defending him to the end. That would be insane. In fact, he probably hates me now after doing all those little clips. You mean a guy with someone who was not disgusted by this was probably raised by some loser parents or some sort of registered sex offender. No, that's most likely true. Tommy was just grooming kids. What's the big deal? That is what he's doing. That would be the proper term of what he's doing right there. Exposing them to stuff, trying to say and normalize sexual misconduct behaviors is a form of grooming. Yeah, like, so for example, the assistant of Alice's bringing up Pee-wee in the theater is actually not I would say in the context of how they were talking about it to a kid, he really had no room to be talking to me as a kid about that situation. Number one, he knows him personally. Two, he was trying to normalize the behavior to me, and it's not presented in an educational format of explaining why that would be wrong or anything like that. So it's a form of grooming me into being okay with the conduct of all these men. So therefore, then I start getting preyed on, and nobody knows about it because everything's normalized, and I see it as normal. And you could ask me, did anybody do anything to you over here? I mean, I know that he tried to rape me. That's a whole different thing. But I'm just saying, like, you wouldn't know how to answer that at the time that you're being groomed, because it's just a way of them trying to normalize this behavior. Like, they're trying to break you down into, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay that we're doing this. It's natural. It's, there's nothing wrong with our bodies. This is, love is love. These type of things are forms of grooming, and it's improper. Okay, so I'm just saying, I'm trying to explain that the best I can. It was really hard trying to explain this to people in 2001 too. Then just because I turned 18 at a point here, and then onward, it didn't change that I got groomed and that they weren't still grooming me. It's like the grooming doesn't end, because of a birthday. And I was trying to explain how crazy and effed up it was, because it's like on this level, I know something's wrong. It's like years go by and everything is out of whack. It's just, again, it was hard to explain, but I still tackled the topic when, people are questioning, like, just stuff like that. It's like, you wrote this thing. It's like, I sure did. One of them is me being an asshole, because I have asshole comedy over here. And I was you have to understand, they're also part of the Howard Stern world. And there's a certain way that these people were being and talking, and myself included, where you could just bag on each other. But at the same time, if you read it in a different context, you can make that seem like something else. And it was a effed up joke, the first thing, and then it went into something serious. But you have to know us to know where that is in the context of what was out there. So, no, I mean, I admitted to, I mean, it wasn't that. They're just trying to spin the story into something that it's not. And then they omitted, so another portion of things like that is they omitted the rest of the story of their part, you know, things that they said, things that they did, things that led up to those things. And, you know, of course they're going to leave that out because their team is trying to sit there and prove, you know, they're trying to back up their statements, like trying to say that they're all innocent, they didn't do anything, and I'm just this random kid that just popped up out of nowhere and been with them for 10 years. I mean, it doesn't make any sense, you know? But the other thing I think that they were trying to spin is that he was my boyfriend, and I'm like, I'm offended by this, okay? Because when they're doing that, when they started doing that, they're trying to justify an adult man on me anyway. So they're not even having an issue with that. So it just, I was just trying to be like, I don't even know where you got that. Like, that thing right there just came out of nowhere. So, no, like, I think he wanted, you know, he wanted to be. But then there's this vindictive game in it because it's like deep down inside they hate me because, you know, I didn't let him rape me. You know, there's this thing to it. It's the mentality of the scrambled egg brain of a socio. And, you know, they say stop trying to figure them out, but you could kind of figure them out if you want to spend time unraveling that damn, you know. I used the example, and I was like, it totally is that. Their brain, when you guys start to put up your Christmas lights and you guys are lazy and just put it into a box and it's all knotted up, their brain is like that. And it's so frustrating, and you have to sit down, take the time to unravel the knotted cord, the lights, right? The you know, Christmas lights that you might put outside or around your tree. And you get pissed off because it's just totally effed up and just knotted up and all over the place. And you have to sit down and be patient and slowly unravel that thing. Well, you could figure it out over time. It takes time, but, you know, who has the time? I do. But I was like, but I'm just saying, it's like, you could eventually figure it out, and it's totally effed up. But if you just took it, you know, right off the bat, you know, this thing, you're like, what the hell? Yeah. But there is, I mean, they have some type of rationale to what they do. It's just you have to understand them to understand the rationale of how they came up to this, you know, conclusion. I'm trying to explain my side of the story. So if I'm saying, if I accuse Sutton or Sutton, I'm going to try to explain how I come to my conclusion. Because my conclusion can be correct by all the information that I have, you know, in front of my face. And that's where we landed. However, it could be off because I have things missing in between that I should have, where the conclusion will actually end up elsewhere, if that makes any sense to anybody. So, such as the thing about these perpetrators going at women, and they do have preferences, like a lot of them do have preferences, but they harm everybody? Yes. So I was saying that there's certain things that were left out of the entire picture when we're talking about this subject right here, where you could disregard, even in this story right here with the Tommy Lee thing. You might go, oh yeah, he's victimizing other women in the audience, but you're not thinking about, oh, he's actually victimizing males, but he's also victimizing other males in the audience. Like, you're not viewing it properly in totality of what's going on right here. So he's telling little boys it's normal to just whip it out anywhere. And we saw this at a very high hoity-toity school where they did a story and the parents were getting mad that they were educating kids on don't touch yourself in public. And you would almost think, like, this would be common sense, like, don't do it. But there's been a lot of men in this industry that have been doing that. But don't do this in public because it's improper. You know, it's all this. One of the dads got really mad about it. And I go, can you imagine being this father who's just having this fit? How dare you tell my kid not to touch himself in public? And the guy paid for the kid to go to school for $50K a year. And he's getting mad at the education that the son is getting, which is more education than the father ever got. Because obviously he thinks it's fine for his son to touch himself in public anywhere. And it's just an educational thing, but he's pretty much pissed off about it. So he's trying to normalize that to the kid, that it's okay, and how dare you tell him not to do it. Apparently Justin Bieber's dad, I didn't know much about his parents. I did this quick skim last night because I was like, oh yeah, I remember I brought up these two ladies right here. But there's actually more stories that I didn't know about. The Remini, that story, I didn't know about that. And yeah, a couple others. But I didn't know about his father making a comment on his nude photos like that. The whole thing feels... There's still something... It was a very effed up time because I was digging into all these stories and I have such wrong humor that at the get-go, you know, you kind of look at it and they're making all these things, and then the thing is that nobody's thinking of that person as a human. And then at some point in the middle of this like contact with everybody, you know, and him and everything else, I just kind of sat back. I think I went to therapy or something. So I started to think about things a little more and deeper, and I was trying to be, you know, in my mind, I'm trying to be a better person. You know, I'm doing this thing. And I started getting targeted from people for dumb reasons. Like, it's me going through a process because those people never got therapy. Those people are addicts. Those people are all the kinds of things. And also in the middle of this, I was like, oh, this kid's going to end up like Leif Garrett, you know, because some really bad things happen with that guy. And I was like, who's around this guy? You know, like, you know, this kid at the time, and then, you know, and then he became an adult in the middle of this too, but yeah, you know, everybody's kind of partaking in this thing, and no, and I was like, dude, somebody need to come up in here, because something bad's going to happen to him. Like, literally, something bad's going to happen to him, or he's going to do something bad to other people. And at some point, some people came in, you know, and how much that, you know, helped, you know, take that, you know, change that course right there a little bit. The other people, though, who presented themselves as help to them were not help at all. And then you see that every single person around them was a predator. I mean, straight up that. And that's the environment that they live through, and the normalization of that. It's hard, you know, it's hard to say what in that, because it's not like they had any positive thing around them. It's people and men enabling and teaching this kid into adulthood. This is what a man is. This is what these things are. Here's drugs. Here's this. Here's that. Doing every bad thing you could think of. And then those type of guys tend to go out into the world and harm us. And so the topic when we're talking about, you know, these predator monsters and, you know, the victims and everything else, I was like, oh, sure, he's a victim here. But don't be surprised also in the story that they may have harmed other people, but it would be just because of that environment. I mean, they're adult now. I mean, but they're married and, you know, this whole thing over there. But he needs to be honest. You know, I don't know what was said, and I don't even know if the media thing was true. So I don't know if he did a thing with Diddy in the recent years or something, and he didn't know nothing about it. I don't know. There was something like that. And so I was just saying, I go, don't lie up in here. Don't be this other person. Because Well, number one, we need to help him not lie about. We need to. That thing right there is an avoidance. If that actually happened, but then the for other victims, that thing right there is never okay. But you have a lot of people here, like Tommy Lee, that is in the background telling them, "Oh no, it's totally fine. What's wrong with you?" And they start degrading you. You're a softie. You're this, that, the other, to make you feel bad and like you're not man enough or something. You're not man enough for letting me sexually abuse you. These arguments. And you have to be a really strong person to go up against that kind of garbage. And those are the people that eventually, well, you hope, let's say you hope, that they end up in jail eventually. But why does it take that long? Why is it taking 50 some odd years, of him, destroying a stage and music to end up getting busted 50 years later? He's like, I'm so used to being this perpetrator. It's been us the whole time. Yeah, that's what we're saying. We're like, you guys were totally fine with it the whole time. Like, somebody's fine with it, because if they're sitting there even able to brag about doing that stuff for so many decades, there's more to the problem than just him.